One of my all-time favorite stories revolves around 3 glyphs and 3 gift rocks that I received over a period of 3 years, 1 rock a year. This story is particularly sentimental and poignant to me for a number of reasons. The personal nature, of course, being high up on the list, but also because of the way that this story connected people in, and it talks about connection and illustrates connection in a really perfect way. And I hope you enjoy it. I'm very, very pleased to share it with you. Some years back, Sue was introduced to a couple while camping. Sean Fay and Lisa Devereaux Krause, who a number of years later became Sean's wife and obviously became Lisa Fay. Over the years, we become good friends with them, and in any event, this was the first time that Sue had met them. And Lisa was just beginning to have a interest or the groundwork for a connection with Sasquatch, and she showed Sue a very interesting picture that puzzled her. She knew that it wasn't random, but she didn't really know what it was at that time, as she was very early along in her journey. And so she showed this picture to Sue, and Sue recognized it as a glyph. And I had already been involved with glyphs for quite a few years at that point, and Sue suggested, let me show my boyfriend Brian this picture, and maybe he can figure out something about it or help you out with it or whatever. And so Sue sent it to me, and interestingly enough, but no coincidence, there is no coincidences with the Sasquatch that I'm aware of. Everything seems to fit an orderly kind of design and pattern. But in any event, I had the picture that Sue shared with me from Lisa, and I went out into the woods the very next day, and I was drawn to a certain area. I was pulled to that area. Very often in those days, and even today, but it was really prevalent in those days, the Sasquatch people would guide me to where they wanted me to go. I would get a strong feeling that I had to go to a certain place, and so I would go there. And when I got out of the car on this particular day, which was actually the very next day after I got Lisa's picture, I walked a short ways up the path, no more than not even 100 yards. And there on the ground I saw virtually the identical glyph to what Lisa had given to Sue to show me. And it was amazing because up until that point, I had never actually seen a glyph that was quite like that, and I had seen thousands of glyphs at that point. But I had never seen one that I recall that was exactly like that, and I knew it was very, very special because of the connection to the glyph that Lisa showed me. And so, obviously I took a picture of it, because I take pictures of glyphs because they're teaching tools. And because one can look back on a glyph or your pictures years after the fact, and with more insight and knowledge, you can see a lot more than you initially saw. And that happens all the time. So in any event, when I showed Lisa the two pictures, it was like her eureka moment. She was automatically connected in. As she put it, she says, "This is all real." And it was a really profound moment for her, and an honor for me to have been part of that moment. Approximately a year later, Sue and I had the opportunity to visit Sean and Lisa at their home in rural Oregon. At this point, Sean and Lisa both had their own amazing connection going with Sasquatch, and were having interaction on an almost daily basis at times. That interaction included the locals leaving many glyphs in their yard and in the field and the foothills just in behind their house. We hadn't been there long when Lisa suggested that we go for a walk through her backyard and into the foothills of the mountains and the trails that she walked almost daily. As we came upon one of the trails leading to the foothills, we noticed directly in the middle of the path an absolutely amazing confirmation glyph. It was really, really white, made of a very light bark or possibly even a straw. But there it stood, right below our feet, and it was the exact same symbol or glyph as the previous two. The one that Lisa had showed Sue, and the one that I had found the next day that opened up Lisa's mind and heart to the possibility and the wonders that Sasquatch are real. As I said, there was one very distinct difference with this glyph. It had the pinwheel, just like the other two. However, it was signed with the initials A, which is the signature of my clan leader RE, and which told me instantly, an instant knowing, that RE had arranged this connection between Lisa and I so that she could continue her journey and learn from the Sasquatch people. That's what they do. They're constantly connecting people. Happens to me all the time. And so it was a very, very beautiful, heartfelt glyph of confirmation. And it's not that I didn't know that they had done that, because that's how they work and that's how it is with them. And it's something I've come to recognize over the years. However, to see it right before our eyes in glyph form was a very beautiful thing indeed. The story of my 3 gift rocks began in, I'm going to say 2014, I believe. And I received 1 rock a year for 3 years. This story also connects in nicely to the 3 glyphs that involved Lisa Faye and myself. And that will be tied in at the end of the rock gift story. But in any event, in about 2014, I went to a special place that I love. I go there to meditate, to relax, to connect with the Sasquatch people, and basically just to be out in nature in the place I love. And it's situated by a beautiful river, and it's a real tranquil, peaceful place, of course. So, as I said, in about 2014, I was there one day, and I noticed a rock that was placed with what I thought was deliberate purpose on top of a large stump, just on the shore of the river. Now, I knew the rock was for me. I guess it's hard to explain how I knew, but just by the energy, the connection, you just know when things are for you. I guess you kind of have to experience it yourself I'll leave it at that. But I knew the rock was for me, and I picked it up, and I took it home. These 3 gift rocks that I got over the course of 3 years, I still have, of course. Most of the other rocks that I found, I've given away to friends. But these 3 are extremely special to me, and they're not going anywhere. So anyway, I picked this rock up, and the odd thing about it is that it was like any other river rock on the shoreline there. It was a light gray with a few little dark flecks in it. A typical river rock. The next day, however, brought forth some startling revelations. And something that I personally can't explain. I did a little research on it, and I don't see any way that it could have happened. The rock went from gray with light flecks into a solid black color, a deep black color. Now I'm aware, or at least I believe, that the oils in your hands or whatever may be able to, or so I've heard, change a rock somehow, and I'm not even sure if that's true. And I'm not sure if that transformation would be permanent or temporary. But in any event, I do not believe that it could have changed from a light gray with some dark flecks in it to a solid black color. And if anything, that color's gotten deeper over time. It seemed to be deeper even the next day. But in any event, it was a solid black color. How that happened, I can't explain. And the rock, to me, very much reminded me of, and still does, I associate it with my clan leader RE. What I see in it, personally, is a profile of a Sasquatch. I can see the head, I can see the shoulders, I can see the arms, the torso, going down to the legs. And it's, I just absolutely loved it, and I was just, I can't even believe, I cannot even express the feeling I had for that rock, how special it was to me. So in any event, a year later I'm on a solo hike, or actually a solo overnight excursion, way deep in my woods by a river, a place I've gone to a few times since, but this was my first time that I had done a solo hike, or a solo camp over, I should say. And it was kind of like a test of courage to camp out all alone in the wilderness with no protection. You know, we're not allowed to have guns where I camp anyway. So I really had no protection. I didn't even really have any bear spray or anything like that. But I put my trust in things, and I went out there and slept by a fire all night. And I could feel the energy of Sasquatch people around me. I did not see anything, but I could feel a presence, and I could feel an energy. At some point during the night, I had my gift rock in my hand, and I lifted it up and started talking to the Sasquatch people and expressing my love and my gratitude to them, my love and my gratitude for the rock and the gesture and the gift. And I was just really expressing gratefulness and thankfulness and love for them, and genuinely from my heart telling them what it meant to me, which was a great deal. And I didn't really hear any response or anything that night. Like I said, I could feel their presence around me, and I felt that they heard it. But it was pretty much quiet for the rest of the night. The following morning, I got up and packed up my gear and proceeded to head out. And as soon as I hit the trail, within moments, I heard a very clear and distinct whoop with the puh at the end. Their classic whoop that I've heard so many times. This one was really, really loud and clear. Felt like it was really close, which, they can throw sound and whatever, so who knows how close they were. You just can't really tell with them. They're masters of sound, and from my experience, what you hear is not always as it is, or it may not be as close as what it seems like, or whatever. They can just control sound and how you perceive it so well. But in any event, I heard that whoop, that clear, loud, precise whoop, and I looked directly below me at that moment, and right at my feet, there was a second rock. This one was already the identical color of my first rock, and when I examined it, it looked to me to be like an old First Nations man's face, or even more likely, a Sasquatch's face. But there was no doubt to me that the two rocks belonged together. They were a family. They were connected. At the moment I picked the rock up, I had a clear mind speak transmission or voice come into my head that said, "You're getting a third." Once again, another year passed, and Sue and I had the opportunity and the pleasure of attending a gathering at Jeff Roan's place in southern Washington, which is right on the border of Oregon. And there were a lot of like-minded people there, and we were really enjoying the company and the energy that you get when you're talking to people who are in tune and on page with you. It was a really enjoyable time. And Lisa and Sean Fay happened to be there too. And now this gets back into how she is tied into it again. And how they connect people, and it's just a beautiful little illustration of that. So anyway, at some point during the day, Lisa and some others went for a hike. And when she came back, she showed me a picture of an amazing glyph that she had taken a picture of. And I definitely wanted to see it for myself, so a few of us went back there and I got some pictures of the glyph. When we came back to Jeff's again, Jeff had a look at it and he said, that looks like my floor plan, the floor plan of my house. And I have to admit, it really did look like that. And to me, it was the Sasquatch people were acknowledging the gathering as something important. Now, maybe not on a worldwide scale or something like that, but something important to me and to others who were there. The beautiful thing is that one incident or one occurrence, or however you want to describe it, can have a completely different meaning to a number of people who are there. And I've seen that so many times. For instance, at the gathering I hosted in September up in BC here, there were a lot of beautiful things that happened that had a totally different meaning and a totally different message, or affected people differently. And it seemed to be just exactly what they needed, which is the magic of the Sasquatch people. How they can do that. But in any event, this amazing glyph did seem to signify the importance of this meeting. And they acknowledged that. So the evening's going on, and Sue and I had just gotten back from across the road from Jeff's place and had been sitting by a river, just relaxing for a few minutes. And we came back and joined the people at Jeff's house. At that point, Lisa and Sean, I believe, went across the road as well, to the same place Sue and I had just been. While they were there, Lisa saw a rock that was placed with deliberate purpose on a boulder. Placed with deliberate purpose, much like the first gift rock that I found 3 years prior. And when Lisa got back, she handed me a rock. A black rock. And she said that when she picked it up, she got mind speak. And what it said was, "This is for Brian." And she told me that. And so I looked at the rock and I immediately connected it as, okay, this is my third rock. And when you look at them all together, the three rocks, there's no questioning the fact that they belong together. Pretty much everyone I've shown them to can see that they're a set and a family, and they certainly are. So here was my third rock. The third rock that I was told a year previous on the path heading out of my excursion, my overnighter, that I was going to receive. And it was given to me by Lisa Fay. Connections again. So Sue started looking at the rock and turning it around, twisting it and examining it pretty close. And she said, "Brian, your name is written on the bottom." Now, for whatever reason, I guess I was engaged in conversation with other people. But at that point, I never really examined it that close, and I wouldn't say I poo-pooed the idea, but for whatever reason, I didn't look into it that closely. I just kind of brushed it off. But approximately maybe a month later or sometime later, Sue's driving in her little Honda Civic, and I'm in the passenger seat, and I'm looking at the rock, and I'm looking at the bottom, and I'm kind of like turning it slow or twisting it slowly and whatever, and all of a sudden, oh my God, it hit me. I could see my name clear as a bell written on the bottom of the rock. B-R-I-A-N. There was no questioning it. And it was like, what in the heck? Now, I would like to clarify, when I say written on the bottom of the rock, I actually mean it was etched in the bottom of the rock. Or the letters were carved in the bottom of the rock. And from what I could see, it did not look like it had just been put in there like the day before or the year before or 10 years before. It looked like it had been there for a long, long time. You know, and like I said, it was very, very obvious that the three rocks were a family and that they belonged together. Now, I don't know what the meaning of my name written on the bottom of the third rock was, although it's pretty obvious that it kind of told me that that was the third rock. I mean, there's no questioning that. It's interesting. I mean, you know, I've always been very humble and very grateful, and I don't want to attach ego to it, like, look at me, look at my name on this rock. That was not what it was about, but it was certainly a profound moment for me, and one that got me thinking of the possibilities of how that name ended up on the rock, what the meaning of it was. I must admit, however, that on the many occasions that I have been honored to show my rocks to others, whether at a convention or just at a gathering of people, in whatever the circumstance and setting, virtually everyone I have shown them to can see that they are connected and generally describe them as a family, much like I do. In addition to that, probably over 90%, easily over 90% of the people that I have shown my third rock to can clearly see my name written on the bottom of it. If anything, this beautiful story and experience has taught me a great lesson in humility and gratitude. And I am very, very honored and thankful to be able to share this story with all of you. So thank you very much for listening. I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart.